Revenge with Karen. I knew Greg was going to be a problem the second he called my prototype cute. Not innovative, not brilliant cute. Like it was a toddler in a Halloween costume, instead of a compression engine that could shave data latency by 82% for our biggest clients. He said it while swirling some oat milk latte like a Silicon Valley wine snob and grinning at the boardroom like he just cured cancer with charisma alone. At that moment, standing in that glass coffin of a conference room, watching the men nod along like bobbleheads at a car crash, I realized something. I had just handed a loaded gun to a man who thought bullets were just spicy Tic Tacs. 8 years I'd been at that company. No scandals, no drama, just results. I built a lean R&D team that ran smoother than the coffee machines upstairs, and I made damn sure we stayed under the radar. I didn't do the birthday sheet cakes. I didn't organize team-building karaoke nights. I gave them working code that didn't puke itself every time someone sneezed near a server rack. And this new VP of product, Greg, whose resume read more like a thesaurus than a CV, waltzed in with his toothy smile and buzzwords, and immediately sniffed out my team like a rat sniffing for cheese in a mousetrap factory. Side note, if you've made it this far, and you're one of the 97% who listens to these stories without subscribing, now's a good time to change that. It's free, and every like lights a fire under the team that keeps us doing this instead of rage tweeting at our exes. Seriously, your support means the world. Back to Greg. First week, he starts making the rounds. That's what he called it, like the office was some damn petting zoo. Comes by my lab, all smiles, asking me what we're working on. I give him the 10,000-foot overview, intentionally vague, because I can already see the glint in his eye. The kind of glint you see in a crow that just found a shiny object to steal. I say we're wrapping up testing on the low-latency analytics prototype, and we'll have preliminary demos soon. That was mistake number 1, talking to Greg like he understood tech beyond turning on Bluetooth. By week 2, he's asking for all internal documentation for alignment purposes. I send a sanitized version. He replies with mind if I show this to the C-suite. I say, if they're interested, I'd be happy to walk them through the build. He smiles that Greg smile again, the kind that makes you want to check your wallet. And then comes the Friday pitch meeting, internal demo for strategic leadership. I'm seated in the second row, 3-day-old coffee in hand, thinking I'll be fielding a few questions if needed. Greg walks up, fires up the deck, and starts talking. And I mean talking, about my project. Slide after slide, using my phrasing, my diagrams, hell, he even copied the compression comparison chart I built in Excel at 2 a.m. while hopped up on trail mix and existential dread. No mention of my team, no mention of me. Just Greg, the innovator. Greg, the visionary. Greg, with his hand jammed so far up the puppet of my work I could see my own bullet points echoing from his teeth. Afterward, he pats my shoulder in the hallway like I'm some intern who fetched his coffee. Says, "You crushed it, Monica. Great support. I swear to God, I had to clench my fists so hard my Fitbit thought I was doing burpees." The next week, I get reassigned. Not fired, not furloughed, reassigned. To CA. As in, quality assurance. As in, department you send developers to die. His reasoning? We're realigning for visibility and optics. You're such a strong technical asset, and QA could really use some of that Monica magic. Monica magic, that's what he called the demotion. Like I was some damn fairy godmother of bug reports. I didn't scream. I didn't call HR. I didn't even slam the office door on my way out. I walked back to my desk, opened the HR portal, pulled up my employment agreement, and started scrolling. And that's when I saw it. Clause 14D. A dusty, overlooked section in the intellectual property section, updated last year when Greg led the Employment Modernization Initiative, said, in simple, glorious legalese, any invention not patented by the company within 30 calendar days of internal submission reverts to the inventor. I leaned back in my broken desk chair, watching Greg strut across the open floor like he owned the place, and I started counting. 30 days, that's all I needed. 30 silent, smiling days. Game on. Greg smelled like department store cologne and corporate insecurity. Every time he walked into our lab, it was like someone cracked open a bottle of Axe and lit a match. He'd lean on desks, ask dumb-as-dirt questions like, have we considered blockchain integration for scalability? Then scribble down notes like he'd just discovered fire. My team hated him. You could see it in how they stopped asking questions during stand-ups, how they closed tabs the second his penny loafers squeaked around the corner. I told them to play nice, told them this guy was just a VP-shaped speed bump, and we'd outlast him like we outlasted every other spreadsheet-wielding grifter who came before. But I was wrong. Greg wasn't just sniffing, was casing the joint. He asked for our JIRA exports, our Git histories, even mock-ups we hadn't touched in months, said he wanted alignment collateral for his roadmap. I sent him the bare minimum, but the man was like a raccoon with thumbs, digging through trash, stealing shiny things, and somehow always finding more. Then came the quarterly pitch. Big internal showcase. Execs, stakeholders, clients, everyone with a title or a yacht on the RSVP list wasn't invited to present. Greg said it was streamlined this quarter to avoid over-indexing on technical deep dives. Translation: I don't want anyone in the room who remembers whose baby this really is. I sat in the back, sipping bad conference room coffee that tasted like burnt printer ink, and watched as Greg strutted across the stage like he'd just reinvented software development. Slide after slide, my diagrams, my benchmarks, even the stupid name I came up with at 3 a.m. after 3 Red Bulls and a crying fit, Pulse Sync. He said Pulse Sync was a visionary step forward in data harmonization, called it the future of real-time intelligence. Said we built this in under a quarter, we, as in Greg and the imaginary team that lives in his haircut. He didn't mention me, not once, not the team, not the devs who pulled 12-hour days just to make the sync engine stop puking JSON, not the sleepless nights I spent refactoring code on my living room floor, half wrapped in a fleece blanket with wine breath and carpal tunnel. Nothing, just Greg. After the applause, I tried to leave quietly, but he caught up to me near the elevators, smiling like a used car salesman with a fresh coat of wax. You like the keynote, he said. We really sold the vision, huh? I smiled. You sure did. Stick around, Monica. Big change is coming. Gonna need your support. That big change came 2 days later. My reassignment email arrived at 6:42 a.m. Subject line, restructuring initiative. QA alignment. I was being moved laterally to QA. They said it was a strategic redeployment of talent to where it's most impactful. It was now in a shared cubicle next to the guy who still prints memes and tapes them to his monitor. I stared at the screen for a full minute. No rage, no crying, just that cold, metallic numbness behind the ribs, like someone dropped an ice cube into my lungs. I didn't fight it. I didn't send an all-hands email or barge into HR swinging receipts. I clicked the company HR portal, pulled up my employment agreement, and scrolled. Again. And there it was, still sitting like a landmine in legalese. Clause 14, D. If any intellectual property submitted through internal channels is not registered, patented, or otherwise protected by the company within 30 calendar days of receipt, ownership reverts to the original creator. I clicked over to our internal ticket system, found the one where I'd submitted Pulse Sync for patent filing, dated exactly 22 days ago. 8 days left. Greg didn't know it yet. He just gift-wrapped the invention and handed it back to me. All I had to do was wait, and not blink. I spent the next morning in silence, back straight, eyes locked on my monitor while the QA floor hummed around me with the beige buzz of corporate decay. Somewhere behind me, someone was loudly unwrapping a tuna sandwich. It smelled like resignation. Fitting. I wasn't there to write test cases. I was there to prepare my war chest. First thing I did, pulled the original prototype repo from the company's Git server, my commits, time-stamped, clean. I made a private backup. Then I exported every Slack thread where I discussed Pulse Sync's architecture, every Trello card I'd authored, every buried comment I'd made in Figma that Greg had since stripped out of his Vision deck. Even dug up an old Zoom recording where I demoed a pre-alpha build to the product team, while Greg was still busy trying to figure out which end of a JSON payload went in the socket. The evidence wasn't just there, it was overflowing, and it had my fingerprints all over it. Then I emailed legal. Just one line, has Pulse Sync been submitted to USPTO or equivalent for patent review? I didn't expect a reply, and I didn't get one. Not that day, not the next. Our general counsel was too busy wrapping their lips around the IPO roadshow. They were polishing stock narratives while I was building a legal time bomb, ticking away in plain sight. Day 24. The prototype was now being demoed to internal sales teams. Word around the office was that Greg was prepping a press teaser. I heard someone mention TechCrunch exclusive. Meanwhile, the system architecture doc Greg had uploaded to Confluence was just a reworded version of mine, dumbed down and stripped of the elegant chaos that made Pulse Sync actually work. I had designed it like a spiderweb, resilient, decentralized, beautifully unforgiving. Greg's version looked like someone tried to recreate a map of Tokyo using sidewalk chalk and regret. Still, no patent filing logged. I set a countdown on my phone for midnight, day 30. No alert sound, just a silent alarm, one that only I would hear in the silence of my own planning. That night, I opened a new Google Doc titled Provisional Patent Prep, Pulse Sync Personal. I outlined the core method, metadata hashing, node prioritization via event windowing, the sync clock I'd invented to reduce drift under high-load queries. Then I started redlining the technical diagrams for filing. I didn't use any of the company's assets. Everything I touched, I built again, clean, independent, bulletproof. Just in case some lawyer tried to scream work for hire through a mouthful of stock options and bourbon. Day 26. Greg walked by my desk, didn't even look at me. Just dropped a QA bug review spreadsheet on my keyboard like he was delivering pizza to a rat. Need these prioritized, he said. You've got good instincts. I smiled and nodded while imagining what color his face would turn when the cease and desist landed. It wasn't rage I felt anymore. It was something sharper, cooler, the kind of quiet you get right before a scalpel touches skin. I wasn't going to warn them. I wasn't going to wave flags or hold meetings or send frantic emails into the corporate void. I gave them everything. My time, my talent, my trust. They paid me back with erasure. Now it was just a matter of who blinked first. And I don't blink. The first time I saw Greg on CNBC, I choked on a sip of cold gas station coffee and nearly shorted out my keyboard. There he was, sitting in front of a staged bookshelf filled with books you could tell he'd never read, confidently explaining how Pulse Sync would redefine real-time intelligence across the enterprise stack. Not our invention. Not my invention. Just his. Like it had sprung from his brain, fully formed, while he was bench pressing buzzwords and humming elevator music. I sat there in a cubicle that smelled faintly of sadness and spilled energy drink, watching my life's work parade across national television with the wrong man's name attached to it. Every time Greg said we, I felt something twist just behind my ribcage. A slow coil. Tightening. The next day, posted a selfie on LinkedIn with the caption, "Great chat W/at CNBC this morning about how we're pushing boundaries. #innovator, #disruptor, #pulse sync, #go to hell Greg." Meanwhile, back at headquarters, no one seemed to notice I'd gone ghost mode. I showed up. I did the bare minimum in QA. I let my calendar stay green in Slack, but my real work was happening offline, in silence, like a hacker waiting for the perfect breach window. And came the news that shook me clean out of apathy. Our biggest client, a Fortune 100 logistics titan with more warehouses than God, had requested a private Pulse Sync demo. They were interested. They wanted to license it. Fast, demo date 2 weeks out. I felt my stomach drop. This wasn't just corporate posturing anymore. This was momentum. Greg was speeding toward a cliff with a stolen engine under the hood, and now he had passengers. Opened my countdown. Day 25. Still no patent filings logged. I checked our internal legal tracker, the USPTO, the company's IP portal. Nothing. Pulse Sync still sat in legal limbo, live, functional, profitable, and legally unclaimed. That night, I sat in my apartment with the lights off and my laptop glowing in my lap, replaying a conversation from 3 years ago with an old law school buddy over whiskey and nachos. It warned me about IP limbo. "Doesn't matter how brilliant your code is," she said. "If your company forgets to patent it and you've got even one clause that reverts ownership, poof, it's yours." Back then, I laughed. "Who forgets to patent something worth millions?" She laughed back, biting a jalapeno popper. "Men in suits. Happens more than you think." Now I wasn't laughing. I was watching it happen. And for once, I didn't feel like the quiet engineer in the back row. Felt like a loaded gun. Safety off. Greg, oblivious as ever, was too busy enjoying his 5 minutes of fame. He'd started forwarding emails from PR firms, inviting sales VPs to fireside brainstorms, scheduling fake coffee chats with CEOs from panels he'd never attend. I heard through the grapevine he was having a new deck designed, animated transitions, company anthem playing softly in the background, quotes from early testers. All stolen, all mine. The client, they were hungry. "What's the timeline to implement across our entire operations?" they asked. Greg replied, "Weeks, not months. Sure. Once you survive the IP lawsuit." Every time I saw Greg's name trending in internal newsletters, every time someone forwarded me a link with subject line, "Have you seen this?" I smiled, because day 30 was crawling closer. And the best part, he didn't even know he was already trespassing. Day 30 landed like a whisper. No alarms, no confetti, just me, sitting in that sterile cubicle under flickering fluorescent light, watching the company's internal IP tracker like a sniper waiting for a target to step into the kill zone. Nothing, not a single pulse sync entry, not from legal, not from product, not even a placeholder. I refreshed the USPTO database 3 times just to be sure. Nada. Greg had spent the last 30 days giving interviews, ordering catered lunches, and name-dropping pulse sync like he'd invented the concept of speed itself, and somehow no one thought to actually file the damn patent. I closed the tracker, exhaled once, then opened a private window. At 2:06 p.m., from my company-issued laptop connected to my personal mobile hotspot, I filed a provisional patent under my full legal name. Monica R. Bennett, not using company assets, not using company code, just me, my diagrams, and my original architectural draft, clean, annotated, backed by commit logs and timestamped design notes from 3 months ago. It cost me $140 and 6 years of restraint. I hit submit. The silence afterward felt holy. I didn't tell anyone, not legal, not HR, not even my devs. I cleared my browser history, logged off Slack, and packed a single manila folder into my tote bag. No dramatic slamming of drawers. No announcement, just quiet, like the kind of quiet you get before a controlled demolition. By day 33, I submitted a PTO request for personal mental reset. No one responded, not even a generic "take care of yourself." HR auto-reply. I was invisible again, just like Greg had always preferred me. Perfect. I left my badge in my desk drawer, walked out of that beige mausoleum of ambition at 4:12 p.m., and didn't look back. No exit interview. No goodbye cupcakes. Just me, walking through the parking lot with the sun setting behind me and my own invention legally strapped to my chest like a second spine. 2 days later, day 35, I sat in a quiet cafe downtown with a flat white, my laptop open to a waiting Zoom window. Across the screen appeared a woman in a navy blazer with sharp eyes and a voice like granite. "Monica Bennett," she said. "I've been expecting you." She worked for the external legal team retained by the logistics firm, our biggest client. The same client Greg had promised a full integration demo by next week. I didn't need to explain the situation. She already knew. Word had traveled fast. That's what happens when a name as big as theirs gets wind that the IP they're about to license might not legally belong to the vendor pitching it. I shared my documentation. The provisional patent, the design files, the time-stamped email chains and ticket IDs. She didn't blink, just nodded and said, "Good. That'll hold up." Then she smiled, tight and lethal. "We'd like to discuss terms." It was the first time in my career I felt seen, not as a developer, not as an engineer, but as the damn inventor. No more begging. No more asking for credit that should have been automatic. No more waiting in the shadows while Greg spun gold out of my sweat. Now, I was the one at the table, and I was done asking permission. Greg was practically vibrating. Word around the office was that he'd rented a standing desk just for the keynote prep, because sitting drains creativity. He'd locked himself in a war room with 3 interns, 2 freelancers, and $18K budget for presentation animations that could have fed the QA department for a month. The Pulse Sync rollout was being positioned as the moment. Internal emails used phrases like category defining and IPO centerpiece. Press embargoes had been lifted. The dev environment had been staged. One intern let it slip that Greg had even picked out a walk-on song, some electronic garbage that sounded like a midlife crisis trying to dance. Meanwhile, I was sitting across from a polished oak table with real adults. The logistics firm's legal team moved fast. The licensing paperwork was dry, thick, and airtight. We walked through clause by clause. My name, my provisional patent, my licensing rights. My compensation, $80K signing bonus, $280K base salary, plus a revenue percentage once Pulse Sync deployed. Full remote. No Gregs allowed. I signed on day 37. Day 38, the courier walked into my old office building like a man delivering a bomb in a briefcase. Slid a sealed envelope across reception to legal's desk. Subject line: immediate cease and desist, unauthorized use of protected intellectual property, Pulse Sync trademark. 2 hours later, my phone lit up with texts I didn't bother answering. Did you see this? Monica, what's going on? Did you do something? No, I didn't do anything. That was the point. I never leaked a document, never forwarded a design file, never broke a single NDA, I just let the paperwork breathe. Greg, of course, thought it was a prank. We're all friends here, he said. Someone's just confused. I heard from a friend in DevOps that he actually laughed, and said, this kind of stuff happens all the time before a launch. It'll blow over. It didn't. Legal called an emergency meeting. They pulled logs, dusted off timestamp trails, asked why there was no patent filed under the company's name. The answer? We assumed product was handling it. They weren't. Greg's face reportedly went sheet white when the lawyers showed him the provisional patent. Monica R. Bennett, filed on day 31, legally valid, legally binding, legally not theirs. He tried to argue it was work for hire. Legal told him to shut up and find his original documentation. He couldn't, because he never had any. He was too busy planning his TED-adjacent summit speech to realize the whole house was built on sand. By the end of the day, the demo was canceled. Every media outlet received a quiet event postponed email. The logistics firm pulled all their engineers from the integration channel. They now had me. No confrontation. No press statement. No revenge manifesto posted to LinkedIn. Just silence. And a name, mine, printed clean at the top of every patent document, now sitting in their inbox. The unraveling didn't start with a bang. It started with a silence so loud it turned heads. The logistics firm's integration team went dark first, pulled out of the Slack channels, dropped off the shared demo calendar, stopped responding to Greg's passive-aggressive touch base, emails. By noon, project manager who once called Pulse Sync a generational leap sent a single-line reply. All future communication will go through legal. That was Monday. By Tuesday morning, the CTO's calendar had a new entry: emergency IP review Pulse Sync. No invite for Greg. He found out when he tried to walk in and got the door shut in his face by the junior counsel. By noon, the entire C-suite had gathered. Greg still hadn't read the patent filing. He was still convinced it was all a misunderstanding Monica will clear up. Then the calls came. The client officially halted all development, canceled the integration roadmap, pressed pause on their multi-million-dollar rollout. They didn't yell, they didn't threaten, they just iced the deal like it was a corpse in a morgue. The board lost their collective mind. Greg was summoned twice. Legal asked for his paper trail, any emails, Slack logs, formal submission, receipts to prove the company had a valid IP claim on PulseSync. All he could provide was a Google Slides deck titled PulseSync Vision 2.0, filled with stolen phrases and overused gradients. Patent office records showed one filing. Mine, Monica R. Bennett, filed independently, 31 days after the company's internal ticket date, in perfect compliance with Clause 14. D, which Greg, in his infinite idiocy, had personally approved the year before during the Employment Agreement Modernization Initiative. The panic was fast, clinical, and oddly beautiful to witness from afar. HR quietly opened an internal audit. No memo, no town hall, just a soft ripple of calendar invites and HR reps appearing like ghosts at desks they never visited before. And when they dug into my Slack messages, my emails, my support tickets, they found a pattern. Day 12, I asked legal if Pulse Sync had been filed. No reply. Day 19, I tagged product operations on the ticket thread asking about patent steps. No reply. Day 23, I followed up on the email chain. Again, nothing. They never responded, not once, because no one cared to listen to the quietest person in the room until the room caught fire. Greg, with the desperation of a man clinging to a sinking yacht, tried to shift blame, that I should have escalated more aggressively, said I should have known the stakes, said I had an ethical obligation to disclose the filing. He actually used those words, ethical obligation. The man who stole my work, erased my name, demoted me to QA hell, and turned my invention into his launchpad, was now waving around the flag of ethics like it was a shield. Legal shut that down quickly. The filing was legal. The contract clause was valid. Department failed to act. Poetic justice doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it comes in the form of a CFO pacing in socked feet, whispering how bad is the exposure, while Greg sits sweating into his ergonomic chair, realizing his IPO keynote is now a career obituary. I wasn't there. But they felt me, in the records, in the audit trails, in every unanswered email with my name on it like a ticking clock no one bothered to read. I signed the offer from a booth in a quiet cafe 3 blocks from my old office, half-empty latte cooling beside me, Wi-Fi bar flickering just strong enough to push history into motion. The logistics firm didn't haggle, didn't stall. They knew what they were buying. The real architect, the legal owner, the mind that actually built the machine Greg had tried to hotwire in public. Title, Director of Innovation. Salary, $420,000 base. Equity generous. Freedom total, fully remote, no office politics. No middle management leeches drooling over your work and calling it mentorship. No, Greg, I read the contract twice, signed with steady hands. Then I opened Outlook and drafted the shortest email of my life. Subject, resignation body, effective immediately. Monica, no drama, no poem about growth, no bullet points of gratitude, just a scalpel made of silence. Sent. Within an hour, internal Slack lit up like a malfunctioning Christmas tree. I wasn't in it anymore, but someone forwarded me the good bits. Wait, Monica quit. Did you see her new job title? Does this mean Pulse Sync is dead? Greg's in a meeting right now. This is gonna be BAD. It got worse. Much worse. News leaked by the end of the day. Pulse Sync was being frozen pending further IP review. The term used in the internal memo was indefinitely suspended. Translation, dead, bled out on the marble floor of the IPO showroom. Investors pulled back. The pre-IPO hype machine screeched to a halt. Marketing yanked their draft articles. Legal shredded every draft licensing contract they'd scrambled to patch. And the board, they moved fast. Greg was yanked off the keynote slot and reassigned to special projects. No title, no team, no clarity. Just a beige room with a laptop and enough shame to fill a vault. Updated as linked in the next morning. Excited to be exploring strategic alignment opportunities in a new capacity. Sure you are, buddy. As for me, I updated mine too. No speech, no humble brag, no TED-style manifesto about rising above. Just a new banner photo, black background, white text in a clean serif font. Inventors read contracts. Simple, surgical, sharp enough to draw blood if you read it twice. I didn't reply to the people who messaged me asking what happened. I didn't gloat, didn't roast Greg in threads or drop screenshots like confetti. I didn't need to. My silence said everything. And for once, the world was finally listening. The boardroom was cold, not just air-conditioned to lawsuit prevention cold, ice bath with fluorescent lighting cold. Greg walked in wearing his nicest suit, one he saved for IPO briefings and fabricated interviews with tech blogs no one read. He sat down like he still had leverage. Like this was a misunderstanding, a hiccup, a bump in the road he could smooth over with his usual avalanche of buzzwords. He didn't speak first. Legal did. A senior counsel placed a thick folder on the table. On top, a printed email chain with Greg's name on every timestamp. There it was, Monica's original queries, asking if Pulse Sync had been filed. His replies were missing because there were none. Silence, like she hadn't existed. And then an attached copy of the company's revised employment agreement. Clause 14D, his signature, dated and notarized. They didn't ask him questions. They didn't yell. Just watched as realization pulled the blood from his face in slow, humiliating waves. The smile cracked first. Then the eyes started darting, walls, window, door. Knew what was coming. This wasn't a meeting, it was a funeral, and the corpse was his reputation. By then, Monica's name was everywhere it mattered. Public Patent Registry, Monica R. Bennett. Licensing agreement with the logistics firm, Monica R. Bennett. Press release teaser from the client announcing their next-gen data sync solution. Pulse Nova trademark powered by Monica Bennett's proprietary real-time engine. They didn't even bother changing the tech, just rebranded the name and scrubbed Greg from the script like a typo. The reveal happened at a major tech summit 2 weeks later. I wasn't there, I didn't need to be. But a dev friend sent me photos, a minimalist stage, big LED screen, and on every slide my name, not tucked away in the corner. Front and center. Monica Bennett, Director of Innovation. Pulse Nova, built by engineers, not executives. Heard Greg tried to salvage something with a LinkedIn post, something hollow and mealy-mouthed about learning to lead through failure. It got 12 likes and 1 comment. Should have read the contract. The fallout back at the company was biblical. 3 major investors pulled out. Stock value dipped. The IPO filing was shelved pending internal reevaluation. the CTO stepped away to spend more time with family. Greg was last seen cleaning out his office with a box that looked way too light to hold 8 years of lies. As for me, I was in a new apartment, remote login open, building the next version of Pulse Nova with a team that actually listened. That understood who built it, that never once asked me to prove I belonged in the room. I didn't have to burn the building down. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a fit. I just waited. And when the moment came, I let the paperwork speak louder than I ever could. You're the real stars of the corporate jungle. Thanks for watching. Hit subscribe, or I'll flick the switch on your old cubicle memories.